Vanessa, let's go back to Ukraine and more specifically Poland, because a bit of a scandal, or furore has kicked up over grain from Ukraine.
Yes. Well, I mean, there has been a furore for some time because of a glut of cheap produce that's coming in from Ukraine that is damaging the ability to earn money and to survive of farmers in the 5 neighboring countries to Ukraine. But this was put out by UKRleaks.org on Telegram yesterday. So Poland found harmful substances in Ukrainian grain. The control chamber claims that out of 73 samples imported from Ukraine, salmonella was detected in 17, pesticides in 17 more, GMOs in 11, and myotoxins in 6. Now, this is interesting. It was picked up by a few people on Twitter. I haven't seen much about it at all in mainstream media, perhaps not surprisingly. But a few Twitter accounts were pointing out that not only is there going to be organophosphate contamination, but also with the supply of depleted uranium weapons, of course, there is likely to also be contamination from that for many years to come. So Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary will impose their own restrictions on Ukrainian grain imports after the EU Commission decided not to extend a ban affecting Ukraine's 5 EU neighbors. That ban came in place, I think, back in April. Restrictions imposed by the EU in May, allowed Poland, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia to ban domestic sales of Ukrainian wheat, maize, rapeseed, and sunflower seeds, while permitting transit of such cargoes for export elsewhere. So let's have a look at one of the reasons why it was banned back then. Banned pesticides found in Ukraine agri imports prove a sticky point. Now, what was the substance that was found? So the two countries are now citing, basically Poland and Slovakia are now citing human as well as animal and plant health concerns as justification for the move, all of which can technically qualify under certain circumstances for an exemption from EU trade law. According to reports, 1,500 tons of wheat imported from Ukraine into Slovakia was found to contain chlorpyrifos, which is an organophosphate, a pesticide banned in the EU back in 2020 and also banned in the US now, despite the fact that it was not intended for the EU internal market, but for third countries, which I guess means third world countries. So they obviously don't care what turns up in third world countries. This particular organophosphate attacks the nervous system. It causes headaches, blurred vision, seizures, coma, and death. It's been linked to utero exposure, which leads to autism and attention disorders, brain disorders. And it could be passed through water, air, food, of course. So, clearly there are now no controls inside Ukraine on what is being exported. And as I said, with the weapons that are now being used in Ukraine, this is something that we should all be bearing in mind, that we shouldn't be eating produce from Ukraine.
Indeed, and I mean, just to add to that, this has had a massive effect on farming in Poland because, of course, farmers in Poland are having to stick to the EU standards now. But in the meantime, the cheapest possible grain has been imported from Ukraine, and of course, this grain was never intended to be used actually for human consumption, but it is ending up in human food chains, and so But on the other point to make here is just very briefly, Vanessa. The Polish government has had to cave in to public angst about this because, of course, they're coming up to a general election in the not too distant future. That's really because we all know how rabidly anti-Russian they are and how pro-Ukrainian they are. So they have had to move on this because of the public backlash.
Yeah, I'd also say, isn't it amazing, though, that this is the situation of agriculture in Ukraine? Because, of course, the West has been boasting that it's been involved in every area of regulation in Ukraine since 2014. And presumably that would have been the safety of agricultural products, but maybe not. Well, let's move on. Sorry, Vanessa.
sorry, just quickly, the majority of the land now, the arable land, of course, is owned by GMO giants like Monsanto. So again, another early warning coming up here.
Yep.
As to what's coming. Okay, thank you for that.